Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I'm just gonna say it. The Democrat grift no longer works. They had this little fun period where they completely controlled culture, and they could wave around this narrative wand as they wished. They could paint anybody in whatever color they wished, and it pretty much landed. The whole media ran and pushed the narrative, and people bought it hook, line, and sinker, having it programmed directly straight to their brains from the old Twitter algorithm. But unfortunately for these Democrat propagandists, we no longer live in that world. The world has evolved, and most importantly, the people have evolved, and so the jig is up, the grift is up, and these cheap, pathetic tactics, well, they simply no longer work. Democrats are still stuck in their old ways, thinking they could get away with these cheap, phony debate tactics, but it's gonna come a time where they're gonna have to actually start developing an argument, where they're gonna have to start winning arguments based on merit. This crap no longer works. I got a Ben Shapiro clip to show you guys. Here's Ben Shapiro versus Eric Swalwell. It's the perfect example of exactly what I'm talking about. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so this clip's gonna speak for itself. It's a little bit longer than normal, but trust me when I tell you you're gonna enjoy it, and I'm probably gonna have a good amount to say.
You probably want less bureaucracy, right?
I do.
I want less bureaucracy. You want more efficiency?
I do.
I want more efficiency. You want taxpayer money spent wisely?
I do. Congrats on becoming a Republican.
Yeah. Yeah. My parents would be proud. Mass deportations, it calls for that. Do you support that part?
I support the deportation of any illegal immigrant who's in the United States who is not of benefit to the generalized American public.
So if they're picking agriculture that puts food on the tables of everyday Americans, they've never committed a crime inside the United States, they didn't come across with documents, should they be deported?
If they have not paid taxes and if their draw on the taxpayer benefits are larger than the contribution they are making to the economy, or if they're involved in criminal activity, they should be deported.
How do we measure that?
The same way that the IRS measures my income every year. It seems like if the IRS can track down every aspect of every receipt that I've ever submitted, and
So
they can do so for hundreds of millions of other Americans, they can do that for illegal immigrants as well, except for the fact that no one knows how many are in the country thanks to this administration.
So you would be cool with creating a system where they could pay those taxes if they wanted to and then stay and work and put food on our table?
It depends on how long it would take for them to pay the taxes, and they would also have to go presumably to the back of the line, although I'm not sure why I'm testifying about immigration policy at this point.
How about banning the abortion pill? That's part of Project 2025. Do you support that part?
I think that that's a state-by-state issue on a personal level.
I'm just asking you.
Sure, I'm a fully pro-life person, which means that I'm not in favor of the distribution of the abortion pill.
Banning same-sex marriage, what about that part?
I am in favor of traditional marriage between a man and a woman, and I'm perfectly fine with anyone having any sort of voluntary sexual arrangement they seek. That's a different thing from whether the government should attach benefits to that personal relationship.
But you think it's a sin to have same-sex marriage?
I mean, I'm confused. Are you asking me as a religious Jew what I think about biblically?
I'm just asking, is it a sin to be gay?
Is it a sin to be gay? I mean, how long do we have here? 2 minutes? I mean, if the basic idea is that sexual orientation is up for government regulation, I'm not in favor of the government regulating the private consenting sexual activity of adults. That is a different thing, once again, from whether the government ought to engage in actual benefits for particular sexual arrangements that adults make.
But again, just you to me, is it a sin or not?
From a religious Jewish perspective, orientation is not a sin, but activity is. That's also the same perspective of most major religions, so far as I'm aware.
Okay. And how about cutting Social Security? Do you support that part of 2025?
I'm not sure what Project 2025's position on Social Security is. I'm in favor of the restructuring of Social Security along the lines of privatization and lowering and increasing the retirement age, because you, as well as every other congressperson, knows Social Security is going to go bankrupt, and yet everyone seems to have an interest in lying about it for the next decade and a half until we have to take austerity measures or radically increase inflation or taxes.
And bans against books about slavery. Do you support that part about?
Why would I possibly be in favor of bans about books about slavery? That would be absolutely ridiculous. What I am in favor of is the idea that school libraries should be able to make decisions along the lines of what exactly is appropriate for, say, a 7th grader and whether they ought to be treated to cartoons and genderqueer. That's not quite the same thing.
And just because we found some receipts, you did say, I think homosexual activity is a sin.
Yes, I'm a religious Jew, that's true.
There's a genetic component.
You found me out.
Orientation. But the view of all religious people I know has always been that sexual behavior is something that is up to you. And you said, I may have a desire to sleep with many women, but I do not.
I agree with me. Yes, that's true.
Congratulations on your, I'm sure it's very hard to restrain yourself.
What you just saw there was Democrat alternative reality, the world of Democrat propaganda versus reality. It's the way the Democrat wants to paint the Republican or the way the liberal wants to paint the conservative, as opposed to who the conservative or Republican actually is. He had one goal in mind there: destroy Ben Shapiro at all cost, make him appear as a horrible, deeply hateful religious zealot, and his credibility shall be gone. Like some friggin' idiotic Harry Potter spell, Carrero Endiosa. I shall end your career with one fatal accusation of religious extremism. Except, of course, as we know, these kinds of accusations only exist in a world that is highly controlled. You know, narratives like this can certainly exist in places like Reddit, where the sweaty leftoid non-binary mods are sitting at the ready, just waiting for the moment to ban a right-wing chud the moment he utters one word. But in the real world, when conservatives are allowed to speak for themselves and respond, rebuke the accusation, well, this is what happens. Utter embarrassment. A complete shattering of the phony Democrat narrative. Ben Shapiro owns it. Yes, I'm a religious Jewish man. Not exactly surprising, is it, that I'm a social conservative? What about your views on abortion? Well, I think we should leave it to the states. You know, anybody who's watching this stuff, honestly, I can't help but think that there's just thousands upon thousands of impressionable minds every single day being exposed to these kinds of videos and thinking to themselves, wait a second, maybe Ben Shapiro and these scary Republicans aren't as bad as the Democrats make it seem. You know, instantly you get the red pill. You see the dishonest Eric Swalwell Democrat tactic, this attempted character assassination, taking the benign and attempting to make it seem extreme and fascistic, when really what we're talking about here is diversity of thought, belief, and democracy. Yes, different people have different moral compasses and different values. Some people derive their values from nothing, I guess from internal monologue and thought, and other people derive their values from thought and also faith. There's different people across this vast globe with different perspectives and ideologies. We gotta find a way to live harmoniously, and the best system that we have so far is freedom of speech, freedom of religion, allowing people to hold different beliefs, and then of course the state system, which allows democracy to occur locally. In other words, more localized representation. The issue of abortion gets sent back to the states, and the people who inhabit these states get to vote for their lawmakers, essentially voting for the laws to be passed, and there you have it, representative democracy. The values of the majority in that localized setting is what becomes state law. It's not a crazy system, it's not crazy right-wing authoritarian fascism, or as the left loves to call it, Christo-fascism. It's just an opinion. And here we have the situation where a Democrat, as they usually do, is attempting to essentially criminalize opinions and different values. If you have said opinion, you should be ostracized from society. Well, the answer is no, you shouldn't, and you should stand by your differences in opinions, as long as you're not legitimately advocating for genocide or something else, and never let any of these left-wing authoritarian wannabe tough guy intimidators ever force you to back down and comply. This is the stuff that red pills thousands. I'm convinced there's thousands of people, probably every single day, just like me when I was younger, getting exposed to these kinds of clips, and slowly but surely, we're seeing the seeds of political enlightenment spread. People must be waking up, because it's just so blatantly, obviously corrupt right in front of your very eyes. Eric Swalwell, you should be absolutely ashamed of yourself. This was a real Ted Lieu, Candace Owens moment. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.